Everybody, it is 521 week number 5. We're on the back 9. First 4 weeks are done. Time for the last 4 weeks. Can you believe it? All right, let's go. Very simple prompt for our discussion board. Does your school or your school district have a gifted and talented learning program? As a reminder, initial post is due Thursday. 2 thoughtful replies due by the following Sunday by midnight. Make sure you're adding an APA citation for that. Pretty straightforward. The big thing we're going to talk about this week is your 3-day instructional lesson plan. Um, Start by looking at the rubric. That's going to be like set you on the path of most success. Make sure you're including UDL, the Universal Design for Learning principles. You have student groupings that include assistive technology, that you have an assessment, a rubric. There's a reflection. That part students tend to do a good job on. Just make sure you're doing that, and don't forget your like lesson plan written, done. Make sure that's all APA formatted, and then just make sure that you're following the rubric for readability and style. So that's the assignment. The biggest thing I have, and I've said this more than once for you, and I say it again, is to just make sure you have significant detail in your lesson plan. I find that when you grab a template, there's kind of narrow columns. I tend to just want to fill out that column and be like, done. And that's not the case. This should be to the point where the way I've thought about projects like this is if you're being observed formally by your site administrator and you're out sick and they're like, all right, you still got to do your formal observation, which wouldn't happen. They're like, we're going to put like a newish sub in and they're going to use your lesson plan. Like, would it be a successful lesson, or is there stuff that's kind of up in your head that isn't written down on that page? So the goal is to get that onto the page, and it's a significant lesson plan, right? So this is a big assignment. This is a big project. If you're able to connect it with stuff that you're going to actually use, fantastic. If it just needs to be an assignment for the course, then sometimes that's the case. If there's anything you are curious about using that you've been like, oh, I wonder how we like quizzes. I keep hearing about that. Should I use it? And how many Z's are there in quizzes? I think there might be 4. This is the time to check that out, to try that out. You don't have to implement this for this assignment. So you could be like, and here we go. Some formative assessment with quizzes. Trying to use maybe School AI with that video, it's called Video Explorer, right? Where like the video will pause and give you like interactive, like AI powered. It sounds so cheesy, but it's true. Like formative assessment, that just in time checking for understanding. So if you haven't played with School AI Video Explorer, maybe now's the time for that. Maybe you keep hearing about like GimKit and you're like, can I gamify my classroom? This is a chance to dive into that. And the answer, by the way, is yes. That by adding playfulness to lessons makes it more sticky. And if things are sticky, remember it. It's good stuff. Anyway, that's just to say that this is an opportunity, excuse me, to try a thing. That's not part of the rubric, but that is definitely my encouragement for you. And just make sure you're adding pretty significant details. Make sure you're going through that rubric. Um, let's talk AI for a minute. Things are moving very, very quickly. There is AI China Deep, what is it? Deep Seek. I always forget the second half of that compound word. You can tell I taught second grade. Who else says compound word as an adult? So DeepSeek is a free generative AI chatbot. Depending on what you've read, I'll give you kind of the overview. My take on it is that it is at least as good as ChatGPT's paid version, and it's free. There's a handful of misinformation about this. If you've not gone deep into an AI chatbot, this might be a good one to start on. If you've been using ChatGPT but wish you had a newer model but don't want to pay the 20 a month for it, using DeepSeek might be a way to get that. Again, like I've heard different things from different articles and different people I've talked with, but instead of spending about $100 billion to develop this model, which is the most expensive part where you're feeding it all of the data. Um, they spent about 6 million, so like about like a percent of what most of the other people pay, like Google with Gemini, OpenAI with ChatGPT, and each model. Um, they spent about $5 or $6 million on it, depending on what you read, and it is by most metrics at least as good, if not better, than all of the existing big players, which is pretty wild. I know typically they'll compare it to OpenAI's ChatGPT and sometimes a couple models of that. Um, Anthropic by Claude and then Google Gemini tend to be the ones that people will compare and talk with. And DeepSeek is free. It's open source, so people are able to take it and build on it, which is pretty incredible. Um, and they're making it just free. One of the things I heard about it from a parent at our school that actually is using ChatGPT to develop apps because he knows user interface. He's like a graphic designer, but always had to hire out to get people to code. And so he's been pretty limited with the amount of apps that he's developed. And this is his full-time job as an adult human. Um, he's knocked out like maybe 5 apps in the last year, and he had one or two, maybe three over the last 15 years. Um, which is pretty incredible. And what he was sharing is that his understanding of how Seek works is that instead of just let me give you everything, and then you ask a question and it kind of parses the whole model and guesses at each kind of chunk of text to give you back. Like it doesn't have a database, right? It maybe you don't know that. They're called tokens. So it guesses at kind of the next like 10 characters. So like a couple words at a time, its best guess of what comes next. Um, so most of the existing chatbots will look at all of those things, but DeepSeek will actually try and identify what category this is and then look at just that. And so it's also costing a fraction um, of resources to actually gather that data and give you a response. Because if you're asking about a math question, it's only going to look at math. If you're looking at like US history, it's going to kind of only go towards that, almost like Jeopardy columns on a game show or something. Um, so if you've not jumped into DeepSeek, this would be a time to kind of check that out. If you're not sure where to go, just playing around with really the ones I've mentioned, ChatGPT, the free one or the paid one, Google Gemini, Anthropic, Claude by Anthropic. Anthropic's the company. I think I switched that earlier. Anthropic's Claude model, which also has a paid version, but their paid version is much closer to the free version. And now DeepSeek, which is super interesting. So this is a moment I think where we're seeing prices come way, way down, which means the ability for other developers to use these in their apps, in their software, is going to grow very, very quickly. I think that we, over the last couple of years, have looked and been like, oh my gosh, like ChatGPT can write a paper for me. What? And we're kind of used to that, even though that should still be a magical, mind-blowing thing. And we keep having these other things. It's able to reason. I actually just updated an app for my school that gives you the lunch for today and tomorrow and the week. Just copy and pasted a PDF, which is, if you ever pasted a PDF, disaster. Parsed it perfectly, gave me the code to update, updated it, reminded me to update it to GitHub, and I did that. And I was like, here's the code. And in about 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, I had my app updated. And keep in mind, I'm not a software developer. I'm a tech director. I was a classroom teacher before that. I am an educator, not software developer, and did that, right? So our ability to do these things that we might have only kind of imagined what if is possible. And so now's a moment where I think we're going to start to see it get implemented in a way that we've not seen at this rate or at this scale. I think we've been using it a lot of like, it can help me write emails. Great. Um, but seeing either really overtly or on the back end, a lot of apps and websites are going to get much, much more useful and and that's starting like this week, essentially. So if you're not playing and dipping your toes in the generative AI waters, now's the time to be using that. Maybe that goes with your 3-day lesson plan. If you've not played around with School AI, the free version of it is excellent. The paid version gives admin a little bit of analytics about it and gets you a slightly faster model. But you don't get too much more with the paid version of School AI, and that is pretty quickly solidifying itself as kind of the go-to like helping with students kind of AI generative thing, aside from just buying ChatGPT Pro for everyone. I don't know any schools that are doing that just yet, or certainly no K-12 schools. So check that out. Maybe incorporate it in your lesson plan, maybe not. You're not going to gain or lose points with it. But again, this is a real opportunity for you to do kind of a real deep focus on 3 days in your classroom in a way that, unless you're forced to do this, you're probably never going to write a lesson plan this detailed again. So try and take advantage of that opportunity. If you have any questions, reach out. Otherwise, enjoy week 5, everybody.